The information provided in this episode is provided for general informational purposes only and may not reflect the current law in your state or country. By watching and listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as legal advice and no attorney-client relationship between you, the host, or guest. You are advised to seek legal counsel concerning your legal question or concern from a lawyer licensed in your state, country, or appropriate licensing jurisdiction.
Kumusta, Texas and all the other 50 states of the United States of America? Ganun din sa Philippines, Canada, Australia, at saan mang dako ng mundo kayo naroon. Magandang umaga, magandang gabi, at magandang tanghali sa inyo, mga nanonood at nakikinig sa atin dito sa live show. Salamat at sinasamahan niyo ako dito sa Usapang Off the Record. Tayo ay usually 1 hour, pero this time we're gonna shorten a little bit because we're trying to do something different for you. So just bear with us, hang in there, and we're gonna make this a very interesting discussion. Okay, so welcome. So Usapang of the Record. I am your host, Aileen, Ligot, Dizon. I'm an attorney licensed here in the state of Texas and in the Philippines, and I'm the managing partner of the Ligot Dizon law firm that is based here in Houston, Texas. Mapapanood at mapapakinggan nyo kami dito sa Usapang of the Record every Friday, 9 p.m. Central Time. And that will be Saturday naman sa Philippines at 10 in the morning. Tanghali naman na yan sa Australia. Kaya sa mga taga-Australia, magandang tanghali. Sa mga nasa Philippines, magandang umaga. At dito naman sa US, magandang gabi. We are live stream here via Roof Chamber Radio Pinoy, Facebook page, and YouTube channel. At ganun din sa law firm namin, ang YouTube channel ng Ligot Dizon Law Firm. And of course, kaya naman like and follow us so you will be notified if we have upcoming live shows. Ayan, at marami kayong aabangan later on sa Roof Chamber Radio Pinoy. Kami rin, kung kayo naman ay hindi nakapanood dito sa live show, mapapakinggan nyo naman kami via Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Overcast, and Listen Notes. And of course, mapapanood nyo ang mga recorded live shows natin, previous episodes, sa Roof Chamber Radio Pinoy YouTube channel and Facebook page. So, if you are joining us on the live show, magparamdam na, bumate, post your shoutout and comments, and I will read them throughout the show. And if you have questions regarding our topic for today, just post it there, and I'll try my best to address or answer those questions. Kaya lang, kailangan i-post nyo yan during the live show, okay? Huwag nyo nang hintaying matapos pa ang show natin bago kayo mag-post ng questions para masagot natin agad-agad yan, di ba? Kaya, ngayon, our topic, kung mapapansin nyo, kung inaabangan nyo or nanonood kayo ng live show natin or kahit ng mga recorded show, mapapansin niyo na for the last 5 weeks, we've been talking about divorce, and it's time now to discuss other matters that, other legal matters that may probably change your life because you need that information, and this is the time you're gonna get that knowledge. Kaya tune in, stay with us here sa Roof Chamber Radio Pinoy, Usapang Off the Record. Ayan, so, bago ko simulan, sabi ko kasi I will greet you kung taga Bicol man kayo, and I asked my mom who's from Bicol, paano nga ba ako babati sa Bicol? So ito basahin na yan, binessage niya sa akin, sabi niya, syempre pinapractice ko, 'di ba? Diyos marhay na aldaw sa inyong gabos. Diyos marhay na aldaw sa inyong gabos. Ibig sabihin, magandang araw sa inyong lahat, at memorize ko yan. Of course, sa mga nasa Pangasinan, sa mga taga Puzorobio dyan, kumusta kilan, amen. Panangan lasirin, tanghalian na, antoy sirayod tayo. Masarap ang talbos ng kamote and inihaw na sariwang bangus. That's, masarap. Yun lang. Okay, so punta na tayo sa topic natin because we are starting a new topic. And we'll talk about, marami kasi nagtatanong sa akin lately about inheritance, about properties, not just in the Texas, but also in the Philippines. If they left properties or their parents left properties in the Philippines, what's gonna happen? So, kaya naman, ang ating series of episodes, sa mga susunod na episodes natin, we will try to discuss all these legal matters relating to succession. All right? Sisimulan natin sa ating discussion ngayon about intestate succession. So alamin natin kung anong intestate succession at kapag ang tao ba under intestate succession, paano ba marireceive ng tagapagmana o sino ba ang dapat na makatanggap ng mga properties ng tao na namatay. Okay? Paano kung may asawa? Paano kung walang asawa? Paano kung may mga anak? Paano naman yung mga nanay at tatay? Paano naman yung mga kapatid? Mga pamangkin, meron ba silang rights? Ngayon, nagkakagulo lang naman ang magkakamag-anak, magkakapamilya when it comes to inheritance kapag they don't know what's going on or they don't know what they're entitled for. So may mga nagkakaroon na ng issue diyan na bakit sa kanya napunta yon, dapat ako. So nagkakaroon ng sama ng loob. Nagiging ano pa yon, dahilan ng pag-aaway-away ng pamilya. At nakakalungkot na makita sa court, even just during mediation, how family members, magkakapatid o magkakamag-anak yan na nag-aaway-away dahil sa mamanahin. And kapagka talagang nasty yung settlement na 'yan at hindi napaghandaan ng taong yung kamag-anak na yumao na namatay, hindi niya napaghandaan 'yan, wala siyang estate planning in place na maganda, nagkakagulo sila at dun na lumalabas ang mga baho ng family. Kaya nakakalungkot imbes na we focus on our grief and reminiscing the memories, the good memories that you had with the deceased person. Hindi. Ang iniisip natin yung mama na yun. And worse pa, hindi pa namamatay yung tao, pinag-aawayan na kung ano yung matatanggap nila. So nakakalungkot lang because I've seen how it's valueless, how valueless lang talaga yung mga properties na ina-accumulate natin while we are alive. So while we are alive, we're focused on our goal. We're focused on becoming successful. And our basis, mostly, not everybody, not all the time, our basis for success is the wealth. How much wealth did you accumulate? That is how successful you are. And so people are focused on accumulating this wealth. And then at the end of the day or at the end of their lifespan here, of course, we're not going to stay here for a long time. We are not immortal. We are all mortals. So we're going to leave this world and we're not going to be able to take any of those wealth or material things that you have accumulated during lifetime. So, but still, we focus on these material things because of the definition of success ng ating society. That's how you are defined if you're successful or not. So ngayon, makikita mo talaga nakakapanghinayang. So I've been into houses ng mga taong namayapa and I have to probate their properties, their estate. And nakikita ko kung gaano kadami ng mga material things na binibili natin. Tapos yun, walang silbi because you're gonna leave it there. Now, it matters kung meron kang pinaghahandaan na mahal mo sa buhay like yung mga anak mo, mga descendants mo. When we say descendants, yun yung mga issues mo, yung mga anak mo, yung downline mo. Yung anak mo, yung apo mo, ganyan. Bloodline mo yon. Pinaghahandaan mo yung future nila, yes. Pero pag hindi mo nagawa ng tamang paghahanda na yun, hindi rin mapupunta lahat sa kanila yan. Magkakaroon pa ng problema. Like I said, awayan sa pamilya. So we have to be very smart na ngayon to plan our estate. So don't say na, konti lang naman ang aking properties. I don't think I will need an estate plan in place. Maybe yes, right now hindi pa, but who knows what's gonna happen in the next, in the next 2 days, in the next 2 months, in the next 2 years, diba? So you have to be prepared. And I've seen it happening kapag hindi ka prepared, talagang nagsasuffer yung mahal mo sa buhay who's supposed to be entitled to receive your estate na pupunta sa iba na hindi naman deserving. So, kaya talagang napahalaga ng estate planning. But, of course, I'd like to share with you this slide. Okay, na meron tayo ngayon dito sa Usapang of the Record. Okay? So, we're gonna talk about this time what happens if a person passed away without a will. So, saka na natin muna pag-usapan yung bakit kailangang uh, may will. So, alamin natin bakit. Ano bang mangyayari? What will happen if you passed away and you did not have a will, or at least your will was invalidated. Meron ka ngang will, dinownload mo from the website, hindi mo na check na hindi pala compliant 'yon sa state law, especially here sa Texas, na invalidate ngayon 'yon nung namatay ng tao, nung pinoprobate na, nakita na hindi pala siya compliant, so mai-invalidate siya. So, ano mangyari? So, the person, as if the person passed away without a will. So, papasok ngayon ang intestate succession. So, doon niyo marinig yung intestate succession pag ang tao passed away without a will. Okay? Ibig sabihin, wala siyang kasulatan na kung kanino niya ibibigay ang kanyang mga properties. Okay? And then after this, we're also going to talk about who will inherit. So, ano ngayon? What if the person passed away without a will? Intestate succession will set in, right? Will govern the distribution of the asset of that person. Now, ngayon, under intestate succession, sino ang mga makakatanggap ng estate nung deceased person? And then gusto rin nating malaman kung ano ba, kasi madalas din tinatanong, ano ba yung mga properties na or assets na hindi naman papasok dito sa intestate succession. Aalamin din natin 'yan. Okay? So ngayon ay simulan natin ang ating discussion. What happens if a person passed away without a will? Of course, I already mentioned that a will, napakahalaga na meron kang will because in the will, you can make a decision kung kanino mapupunta yung mga properties mo if your will is properly done and compliant with the requirements of the law. Now, but if not, then you are telling, hey, Texas, ikaw nang bahala sa properties ko kung kanino mo ibibigay. So, doon pumapasok yung intestate succession, your intestate law ng Texas. Kasi ang intestate law yan, it's very structured. Kung ano at ilan portion ang matatanggap ng isang kamag-anak mo or next of kin mo from your estate dahil you pass away without a will. So Texas law ang magsasabi kung kanino at kung ilan, gaano kalaki. Okay, ang makukuha mong inheritance from the person who passed away. Of course, intestate succession is governed by state law. So if you are in a different state, you're not here in Texas, it's always advisable to consult an attorney who practices intestate succession or probate or estate planning in your jurisdiction so that you will get the proper guidance and the understanding and knowledge of the law so that you know what to do in case you are in this kind of situation. All right, so yan ang intestate succession. Ang gagawin dyan, like I said, there's a structure kung kanino mapupunta. And we will discuss about that in a little bit, okay? Ito ang ito lang dapat yung malaman when it comes to intestate succession na alamin dyan kung ang tao ba, if the person pass away as a single person, kung single siya, may anak ba siya? Kung hindi naman siya single, divorced ba siya? Or unmarried siya pero may mga anak siya? O kaya naman, meron siyang married siya, pero wala siyang mga anak. So, ang naiwan lang ang kanyang asawa, yung spouse, and the parents, and the siblings. So, paano na ang hatian dyan, di ba? At syempre pa, wag din natin kalimutan because here in Texas is a community property state. It means that may effect yung distribution ng estate ng taong namatay kapag may namatay yung tao na married. At syempre alamin mo sino ba yung naiwanan niya. Yung spouse, may mga anak ba? May mga anak ba siya within yung marriage niya, current marriage niya dun sa surviving spouse niya? May mga anak ba siya sa previous marriage niya? O may mga anak ba siya outside of the marriage? Yon. So, importante lahat yon because like I said, Texas law, interstate succession is very structured in terms of distribution of properties here, uh, properties of the deceased person. So to just clarify, pag sinabi nating deceased person, yun yung taong namatay. Okay? Sometimes we call that person decedent. Okay? Ngayon, yung mga naiwanan naman, of course, surviving relatives. So, pagka meron tayong surviving spouse, alright, meron tayong children. Sometimes we use the term, or most of the time, use the term descendants sa mga anak. So, descendants mo, yung mga downline mo, yung bloodline mo going down. So, descendants mo, yung mga anak mo, yung mga apo mo, yung mga apo mo sa tuhod, ganyan, down the line, yan. And then, of course, yung surviving parents, surviving siblings, and the brothers, sisters yan, and the nephews and nieces, yan. Yung kapitbahay nyo kaya, makakakuha from you, well, hindi natin masabi right now. Kaya, tune in, alamin, okay? Alright, so, ngayon, diyan, dito sa interstate succession, hahanapin yung next of kin. Okay? Kaya minsan kapagka meron akong pino-probate, because when we probate a will, or let's say a person passed away without a will, we apply for determination of heirs. At kailangan yon ipapublish mo yon. And we'll talk about probate later on. So, kasi ang purpose nun is hanapin kung nasaan na ang mga heirs, kung sino ang pinakamalapit na heir nung namatay. When we say heir, yun yung tagapagmana, okay? Heirs, of course, plural. Alright? So, hahanapin yan kung sino. Titingnan muna down, may anak ba siya? Kung wala, meron ba siyang apo? Kung wala, meron ba siyang asawa? Kung wala, meron ba siyang parents? Kung wala, let's say for example, pareho bang both parents are still alive? Kung hindi naman, sino ang susunod na titignan natin? Mga kapatid. So that's how we do our search for the next of kin. Napakahalaga yan. Minsan, magugulat ka na lang. You'll be surprised na meron pala akong mamanahin. Sometimes movie lang yun, no? You think it happens only in the movie, parang yung sa Goodfellow, na movie. Na bigla siyang nagmana ng napakalaging halagang pera, and he doesn't even know the person who died, who passed away. Siguro very distant uncle niya. Pero that's how it is. Kung siya na yung next in line, and then sa kanya mapupunta yon. Kasi kung hindi, saan mapupunta? Sa state. So, syempre, pero hahanapin muna natin yan. Yung next of kin na yan, yung napakaswerteng next of kin. Okay? So, ngayon, dahil alam na natin how interstate succession works, like I said, if the person passed away, pasok na yan agad sa interstate succession. And sometimes, kahit na may will, if the will was invalidated during probate, papasok yan sa interstate succession. Kaya very, very careful dapat kayo pag gumagawa kayo ng will ninyo. Huwag niyong basta-basta, pwede na yan. Hindi pwede yung pwede na yan. Okay? Kailangan siguraduhin niyo yan. Para hindi magkaroon ng malaking away later on, or contest ang tawag natin yan pagka you are trying to invalidate the will, kino-contest mo yon. Yun ang tawag doon. Alright? So ngayon, now that we know it's going to be governed by interstate succession, let's go ahead and ask this question. Who inherits the property? But before we do that, before we go into this one, we have some comments here. So, bumati muna tayo sa ating mga bumabati na kasama natin dito sa Usapang Off the Record sa live show. From my mom, Delia Ligot, nasa Australia. Sabi niya, blessed evening, Houston, Texas. Hello, Attorney Aileen. Hello, ma'am. Bumati ako sa sa Bicol, with your help. Yes, so thank you. And I know na tanghali na dyan sa Australia. So you might be having lunch right now, so enjoy your lunch. All right. And then, of course, we have some question here, and we will address them as we go on with our discussion of our topic for today. Okay. But before we move on to the next topic, to the next question that we just asked, let's just pause for a short break, and we will come back dito sa Usapang Off the Record. Kaya stick around and I'll see you in a little bit.
Hello to everyone from Roof Chamber Radio. I'm encouraging all of you to stay here, stay in this chamber. If you want to be inspired, you want to be encouraged, this is where it's at. And we're all going to need this, especially, in this new year that we're in. We don't know what's up for tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen next week or next month. But I believe that when you gather with people who believe in the power, the faithfulness, and the goodness of the Lord Jesus Christ, there is power in that in itself. So stay here. Stay in the Roof Chamber Radio. Be inspired, be encouraged, and let's all go through life, not on our own, and more than just with each other, but let's speak the faith, let's share the faith, let's live by faith, and let's walk by faith. God bless you all, everyone from Roof Chamber Radio.
And we're back. Nandito pa rin tayo sa Usapang Off the Record. It's me, Atty. Aileen Ligot Dizon. I'm based here in Houston, Texas. All right, so let's continue our discussion. We are actually talking about intestate succession. So we asked the question a while ago before the break. We asked the question, who inherits the property? So if it's going to be intestate succession, and you said that the state will determine who's gonna get and how much will that person get, then tignan na natin kung ano ba talaga ang makukuha ng mga naiwanan na kapamilya o kamag-anak, okay? So dito kasi titingnan natin we have to understand that the Texas Intestate Succession Laws uses a statutory formula. So may formula yan na we have to follow. Hindi pwedeng, okay, pwede na yan. Ito na lang. Okay na kayo dyan. Mag-agree na lang tayo. Okay na to. Ganon. So merong statutory formula ang Texas. And of course, the other states, they do have that as well. You just need to, of course, consult an attorney who is practicing probate or estate planning in your jurisdiction, okay? And also in the Philippines, okay? Meron din intestate succession sa Philippines. Marami akong mga nagiging kliyente na they pass away in the Philippines without will. So, paano na, di ba? May mga naiwanan sila mga properties, okay? Ngayon, yung distribution ng estate ng taong namatay, depende yon sa kanyang circumstances, sa kanyang familial configuration at that time the person passed away. Okay? So titingnan mo yung the time the person passed away. Titingnan mo yung mga next of kin. Like I said earlier, spouse, may asawa ba siya? Kung meron, may mga anak ba siya? Kung meron, buhay ba sila lahat? Kung wala, kung hindi, meron bang apo? So lahat yung tinatanong natin yan. Okay? So ngayon, makakatulong sa atin I'm very visual. So I have a visual picture here, so it will help us with our discussion. Okay. All right. So who inherits the property? Na ngayon, ito na yung mga unmarried person with children. Yan. Siguro tignan natin yan. Unay mo natin yung yung if the person pass away na single siya, at wala siyang at may mga anak siya, syempre puntahin sa mga anak niya, 'di ba? So dito naman this person is unmarried, okay? Pero may mga anak. Nangyayari ba yan in reality? Of course, nangyayari yan in reality. May mga, when we say unmarried, yung mga hindi sila nagpakasal, meron tayong mga common marriage, na hindi pa na-declare. So, unmarried pa sila, but they have children. So if in that case, of course, if you are not married and you are survived, you passed away and you're survived by your children, then your children will get everything that you own. Okay, because in this case, kung you are unmarried, there's no community property, only your property. Everything is yours. Okay, there's no separate personal property. There's no separate real property. There's no community property to speak of. Everything goes to your children in equal share. Now, if one of your children is no longer alive when you pass away, at yung anak mo na yon who predeceased you, so that's the term. Predeceased means namatay before you, nauna siya, ay meron siyang mga anak, so that means meron kang mga apo. Then yung mga apo mo na will also get what the parent who passed away is supposed to get. So hindi naman talaga sila mapag-iiwanan, mawawalan talaga. So that is if you are unmarried and you have children. So think about it, okay? Isipin niyo mabuti yun. This is part of estate planning as well. Kasi syempre, your hard-earned money or wealth, you want to give it to your descendants, your children, para sa future nila. And I believe all parents naman ganyan. So dito, parent ito. Parent itong si unmarried person. Kasi meron siyang mga anak. Okay? So, yes, remember that. All right. Now, ito naman, baguhin natin yung situation. Parang ang dami naman nito, Attorney Aileen, no? Well, isa-isahin natin. So, don't get overwhelmed. Sabayan niyo ako, okay? Stay with me. One at a time para maintindihan natin at hindi tayo maguluhan. Okay, if the person is single, okay, ito na yung mga single at hindi sila at wala silang anak. So kanina we talk about uh, unmarried, could be single, at may mga anak. Ito naman single pero walang mga anak. So ngayon, kanina mapupunta yung estate niya according to Texas law under intestate succession. Okay, so look at this. If the person passed away with no children, una mo na yan, remember, we are not going to classify whether the property is community property or separate property because hindi naman siya nagpakasal. So single siya. So mapupunta 'yun sa at wala siyang anak, 'di ba? Kasi una mo na 'yan, you will look into the downline. So baba ka muna, tingin ka muna sa baba, look at that. Do you see any descendants there? Descendants again, children or grandchildren. Pag wala, you go up. Okay? So pag both parents are still alive when that person passed away, then the father and the mother will receive the equal share of everything. Okay? Equal share yan. So, mapunta sa parents mo yan. Pagka wala kang anak, wala kang descendants, there's nobody down the line there. Okay? Sometimes, by the way, we call our children then descendants and or issues. So, wag kayong maguluhan doon. It's the same thing. They're the same thing. All right. So ngayon, what if one of your parents is no longer alive? Nangyayari ba to? Of course, nangyayari to in reality, di ba? Minsan nauna ang ating tatay, our father, or sometimes yung mother, So kung wala sila, kung parehas lang buhay, hati sila, equal share. Pero kung isa lang ang still alive when the person passed away, then it's either the father or the mother. No, I just put there the father. So the living parent, siguro na lang gamitin natin, will get half of everything that you own. Okay? And then the other half will be received by your living siblings, yung mga kapatid mo. So kung meron kang 3 kapatid na buhay at the time the person passed away, half of that will go to the father or to the mother, whoever is alive, and then the other half will be divided equally among the living siblings. Okay? Now, question is, kung let's say yung meron kang kapatid na hindi na who predeceased you, namatay na before you, pero meron siyang mga anak. So that means meron kang mga nephew, nieces, yan. So sila naman ang magre-receive ng dapat doon sa kapatid na namatay na. Okay? So meron pa rin 'yon. So don't worry about yan. Kung ikaw ay pamangkin or pamangkin, niece or nephew, then you will be receiving what your deceased parent is entitled kapag kapatid yung namatay. All right? So that's another thing, another important distribution there. So it doesn't matter whether it's father or mother who's still alive, as long as one parent is alive, that parent will get half of it. And the other half will be divided equally among the living siblings or nephews and nieces. Okay? Now, paano naman kung wala ka ng no parents, walang parents alive at that time. You have no parents, and then of course wala ring siblings, mag-isa mo lang, 'di ba? No, nangyayari ba 'yon? Yes, kung mag-isa mo lang na anak and then you accumulated wealth and then both your parents are no longer alive and you pass away, who's going to get your estate? Now, there's no downline, and when you go up, the parents are no longer there, so you still go up and see if there are more, there are other, yung grandma mo and grandfather mo are still alive, and then they get it. So pag wala talaga, walang kapatid, walang anak, walang mga magulang, walang mga lolo, so hati yon. If you see that green green circle there, the father side, whoever is the next of kin sa father side will get half, and then well, I mean, yung mga heirs sa father side will get half, and then yung mga heirs sa mother side will get half. That is if walang downline, walang parents, walang mga kapatid. Okay? Now, ito naman yung nasa red, siblings or their children. Ito yung kapag ang ang buhay na lang when you pass away ay mga kapatid mo. So mga kapatid mo, hati-hati sila. Okay? Ngayon, like I have mentioned earlier, if one of your siblings passed away before you but left children who are, of course, your nieces and nephews, then they will get the share of your brother or sister who passed away, yung parent nila. Okay? Very interesting, 'di ba? So hindi mo pa sabing, "Ay, mapupunta sa amin lahat 'yan." No, like I said, interstate succession is very structured, and not just in Texas. You have to look into your state interstate succession, because they do have certain structure as well in terms of inheritance when the person passed away without a will. Okay? Ayan. So now let's go to the next. Ano naman yung susunod nating scenario here? Okay. Nako, parami ng parami ba yan? Okay. So maybe this one will if the first two slides didn't apply to you, maybe this one will apply to you. Okay? Married person with children. Nangyari ba to? Of course, marami dyan, di ba? There's a lot of people there who are married and they have children, and sometimes they have multiple marriages, and they have children from previous marriages and then from the current marriage. So ano yon, medyo little complicated yan kapag you are not prepared, you don't have a estate plan in place. So diyan na nagkakaroon ng medyo magulong settlement. So especially if the relationships are not that great. Hindi naman lagi silang yung children mo from previous marriage okay dun sa current marriage mo, 'di ba? So kaya nagkakaroon, especially if the relationship is not good. So yan. So tingnan natin. So let's say you're married and you have children. Okay, so let's look at the current spouse, the current marriage. So remember, if you're married, you have to classify the properties na, because Texas is a community state, so that community property state. So that means if you are married, you have community property, and not all will be your community property, diba? You may also have a separate may also have separate properties. And when we say separate properties, you have to classify again. Is a separate property personal property or real property? When we say personal, ito na yung mga personal belongings mo. Like for example, yung basically movables, yung jewelries mo, yung furnitures mo, and all other personal items that belong to you. So ngayon, that's your separate personal property. Meron ka ring separate real property kung meron kang lupa or bahay dito sa Texas. Sometimes meron kang more than one, 'di ba? Meron kang tinitirahan mo, tapos meron kang binili as investment or pinaparent mo. So you may have more than one real property here in the state of Texas. Okay? So that's why it's important to understand what are your properties, because pagdating sa inheritance under interstate succession, iba-iba ang structure niyan, okay? So let's go first to separate personal property, okay? Kapag separate personal property mo yan and you are survived, and then titingnan mo rin kung sino yung naiwanan, 'di ba? If you are survived by your spouse, and then you have children, just like in our situation right now, married person with children, yung separate personal property, iba ang hatian. So if it's a separate personal property, the surviving spouse will get 1/3 of that. Okay, so yeah, ano yun eh. It's either i-inventory mo lahat yon So makuha mo lahat. These are all the separate properties, separate personal properties. So it's either you dissolve it, liquidate it para mas madaling hatiin, no? Ibebenta yon, and then you makuha mo yung value, and then you divide it. 1/3 goes to the surviving spouse, okay, wife or husband. And then the 2/3 mapupunta yan sa mga anak. If there's only one child, then the one child will get 2/3 of your separate personal property. If there are 2 children, then 2/3 divided by 2. Basta 1/3 yung sa surviving spouse when it comes to separate personal property. Iba naman ang structure when it comes to separate real property. So yun yung green sa ito sa bandang kanan, ano? Separate real property, iba naman yan. So when we say separate real property, let's say binili mo yung bahay at lupa, yun ang bahay mo prior to your marriage. So that is your separate real property, di ba? O kaya naman pinamanahan ka ng parent mo o ng parents mo ng bahay nila. So that again is your separate real property. So kanino mapupunta yung mga properties na yun, mga real properties na yun? Mapupunta yun lahat sa mga anak mo. Okay? When I say mapupunta sa mga anak mo, yung yung ownership ng property. Okay? Sa kanila yon. However, hindi nila basta-basta, okay, akin na tong bahay na to, liquidate na natin, benta na natin, and then we share. Let's say you have 2 children. Sabi ng dalawang anak mo, okay, we're gonna get all the ibebenta na natin yung 2 houses na yan, and then we will split half and half, okay? That's not gonna happen yet kasi kung makikita mo dyan, yung surviving spouse, hindi man siya makakuha ng portion noon, meron namang binibigay sa kanyang life estate. Ano ba tong life estate na ito? Ito yung karapatan nung surviving spouse mo to use the property, to use it as her or his homestead while she or he is still alive. So, hindi mabebenta ng mga anak mo yon hanggat tinitiran mo yun at ginagamit mo yun, ina-exercise mo yung right mo to stay in sa property na yon. Okay? So, minsan nagkakasundo na lang, bina-buyout, or you could settle after that as long as all the heirs are in agreement, then yes, why not, diba? That is if you will come up with a settlement. Otherwise, kung batas ang mag-a-apply, this is how it's gonna work. Hindi mo basta-basta mabebenta yung property, yung bahay na yon kapag ka tinitirhan ng surviving spouse. Paano ba mangyayari ito let's say yung parent ko naman yun sabihin mo, 'di ba? Well, nagkakaroon ng complication kapag may mga other children, other children from other or previous marriages, 'di ba? Let's say for example, meron siyang first marriage and meron siyang mga anak doon. Children pa rin 'yun. Kasama sila diyan sa separate yung sa hatian na 'yan. So, kaya naging complicated 'yan pagka hindi magkakasundo, 'di ba? Siyempre the best pa rin yung you come up with an agreement how to settle your estate. Otherwise, Texas will say who's gonna get what, okay? So that will be separate real property and separate personal property. It's different naman pag community property, okay? Again, community property, ito yung properties, mga community properties are properties that the spouses purchased or earned during the marriage. Of course, we defined that one in the last episode, So if you can't remember that or you missed that one, you can always go back and watch the recorded live show. Ngayon, community property yan. Depende ngayon ng situation niya. Hindi ibig sabihin porket community property yan, makukuha lahat ng surviving spouse. Not always. Kaya nga pag may nagtatanong, oh no, not always. We have to look. So I will ask them a question. So here comes a surviving spouse sa office, nagtatanong, attorney, my husband passed away. All right. And we have community property. And we have children. We have 2 children. And then ang unang tanong ko diyan, okay, meron ba siyang previous marriage? Yes, attorney. Meron ba siyang mga anak sa previous marriage niya? Yes, attorney. Well then, iba ang sinasabi ng Texas, you're not gonna get everything. If ang naiwan lang ng husband mo ay ikaw at yung mga anak niyo pareho, which means yung children of the marriage, yung marriage nila, then the community property will go to the surviving spouse, ano? Pero it's wala makukuha yung ano, yung mga children. Community property, mapupunta lahat yun sa surviving spouse kung walang anak yung namatay sa previous marriage or outside the marriage o sa ibang parent, you know. Kasi kung meron, then mag-a-apply yung rule na yung community properties na yun ay mapupunta lang sa lahat ng mga anak niya, divide it equally among them. Divided by okay? So, ibig sabihin, community property man yan, wala mapupunta dun sa surviving spouse. Kasi nga, may mga anak siya sa marriage na yon, tapos may anak siya sa previous marriage. Kasi dalawa yung anak nila sa marriage na yon. And then sa previous marriage siya may dalawa din. So ngayon, yung community property niya will be divided equally among the 4 children, and the wife or the surviving spouse will not get anything. But of course, remember community property, yung mag-asawa, they own an undivided half, interest doon sa property. We are talking only about the share of the person, of the parent who passed away doon sa community property, which is the undivided half. So the other parent will still get her or his half of the community property. Okay? So, di ba? Masaya. Alright. So, ngayon, meron pa tayong other scenario, and we will discuss. Pagpapahingin ko muna ang inyong mga brain. So, we'll just pause for a short break, and we'll come back after this very short break. Okay? So, stick around.
Hello, everyone. My name is 𝘗𝘠𝘰𝘠𝘦𝘳𝘵, and I am the membership co-chair of the Philippine American Chamber of Commerce of Texas Greater Houston Region. Please watch the Beast Talk every 2nd and 4th of the month via Roof Chamber Radio Pinoy, Facebook page, and YouTube channel. See you all at TBT na!
Yes, see you all sa TBT na. That is the Beast Talk ng Philippine American Chamber of Commerce Greater Houston Region. Okay, bago tayo bumalik sa ating discussion, let's look at the comments here. No, we have questions. Okay, let's show it on the screen. So, sabi ni Attorney, Orlando R. Dizon, sabi niya, is a child entitled to receive from foster parents? So, siguro tayo dito, nag-typo tayo dito, foster parents. Yeah. So, okay. Ano ba yung foster parents? 'Di ba, we just take care of the children, but they're not our children, you know? Legally speaking, wala kang parental rights dun sa mga bata, okay? So meron kang temporary while you are the foster parent. So kung the foster parent passed away, may makukuha ba yung foster child? Well, sad to say, hindi, unless the foster parent will adopt the foster child. Kasi adoption will legalize the relationship. And in Texas, if you are adopted, I think that is the question here. Next question, what about an adopted child? Yes, so if you're adopted child, kapareho mo ng right yung mga anak. Okay, so you will be included doon sa hatian. You will be considered as children of the marriage kapag you are legally adopted. Okay, so pagka foster child ka, you're not gonna get anything unless you are legally adopted by your foster parent. Right? So that's a good question kasi dito marami namang situation na ganyan. So very interesting. All right. Okay, so now let's go back and let's finish this. We're done with that. Okay, so let's go to this one. Ito naman, what if this is your situation? You're married, but you have no children. Nangyayari ba ito? Of course, nangyayari ito, no? May mga spouses na hindi nagkakaanak, or let's say, no, their child passed away at a very young age, no? Sila na lang naiwan. So paano na yung nito distribution kapag walang anak? So again, because you're married, you'll have to determine whether whether the property is personal, separate personal property, separate real property, or community property. Okay, so let's look at this. If there are no children, meron ka lang spouse na naiwanan, if it's a separate personal property, then the surviving spouse will get everything. Walang anak, remember? So, mapupunta lahat sa surviving spouse, yung separate personal property, mga jewelries, mga um, heirlooms yan, yung mga personal items, expensive collections, yan. So, mapupunta sa'yo yan. Also, mapupunta rin sa surviving spouse lahat ng community property kasi wala kayong anak eh. So, if it's your community property, the surviving spouse will get everything as well. Now, nagkakaroon lang tayo ng different distribution if it's a separate real property. Okay? Separate real property. Kapag of course, kung ang surviving, ang naiwanan lang naman, ang naiwanan lang naman na heir mo is yung spouse mo, then the spouse will get everything, right? Pero kung in this case, yan iba-iba, no? So, kapag meron kang surviving spouse, okay? And then meron kang parents, remember wala kang anak. So half nung separate real property mo mapupunta sa surviving spouse mo. And the other half ay mapupunta sa surviving parents nung deceased person. Okay? So hindi lahat mapupunta sa asawa mo. May mapupunta yung kalahati na mapupunta sa magulang nung asawa mo. If they're still alive at the time of death. Okay? Ngayon, kung let's say both parents are alive, okay, and then the spouse survived you, then this is just simplified, so the spouse will get half and then yung other half paghahatian ng mom and dad mo. Okay, so half yan. So ganun na mangyari. Pero kapag let's say isang parent mo na lang ang naiwanan, okay, so half will go to your surviving spouse. Tapos yung kalahati paghahatian ng surviving parent mo at saka ng mga siblings mo, mga kapatid mo. So mangyayari, 1/4 na mapupunta doon sa surviving parent mo, kasi isa na lang siya, and yung other 1/4 paghahati-hatian ng mga kapatid mo. That's what's gonna happen. Yan ang mangyari. And remember, this is only separate property. So, hindi naman lahat yan. Okay, ngayon, kung wala namang parents, ang naiwanan lang yung spouse mo at saka mga kapatid mo, then half will go to your spouse and then the other half paghahati-hatian ng mga kapatid mo. Okay, so that's how it's gonna work. All right, very interesting, di ba? So that's why it's very structured. I told you it's very, very structured. Okay, so marami pa mga situation. Maybe we can discuss this later on as we go along with our, discussions sa mga susunod na mga episodes. So kaya abangan nyo yan. Marami pa tayong pwedeng ma-share sa inyo. Now, lastly, may tanong na, lahat ba ay subject sa probate? Lahat ba subject sa distribution dito sa intestate succession structure ng Texas law? Hindi naman lahat. Meron tayong tinatawag na non-probate assets. So, may mga assets na hindi mo na kailangan pumunta sa court or hindi na kailangan ng administrator para, alamin kung kanino mo pupunta. Kasi meron ka nang nag-designate na beneficiaries mo dyan, okay? Like for example, ito nga, joint tenancy with right of survivorship. So meron kayong biniling bahay, let's say meron kayong property, although pinili nyo during the marriage, and could be a community property, pero you entered into a joint tenancy with right of survivorship with your spouse, ganyan. So when we say right of survivorship, automatic yung transfer ng ownership pag namatay ang isa. So let's say husband and wife, bumili sila ng property. O let's say wag na lang husband and wife, sabihin mo ikaw and then yung friend mo, hindi mo man kamag-anak, you purchase a property tapos dun sa agreement ninyo, dun sa contract, there's a right of survivorship. So pag namatay ka, automatic mapunta dun sa kaibigan mo yung lahat-lahat. Okay, wala nang gagawin pa, doesn't have to be proven in court. Okay, because the document says so. Okay, ganun yon. Now, the other one is living trust because you already, in a trust, if you create a trust, you already designated there your beneficiaries. So, mapupunta yon sa, sa mga dinesignate mo na mga beneficiaries doon sa trust mo. The other one is life insurance proceeds because when you sign up for your life insurance, meron kang you designated the beneficiaries there. However, if let's say you don't have an alternative, na wala na yung beneficiaries mo na nauna siya namatay sa'yo, wala kang alternative, mapupunta yun sa estate mo, papasok yun sa intestate succession. Kaya importante meron kang mga alternates diyan sa life insurance mo. The other non-probate assets are funds in your IRA, 401k, and other retirement account. Why? Because you already have designated your beneficiaries there. So, kailangan lang you have to prove that the person passed away through the presentation of that certificate. And also payable on death bank accounts yan kasi you designate there sa document ang beneficiaries mo. Basta meron kang designation of beneficiaries and the beneficiaries at the time of your death is still alive and willing and capable of receiving it, then it's not gonna go to your it's not gonna go under intestate succession. It will be a non-probate assets. Again, so may mga iba pa. This is not exclusive. These are just examples. So that's why it's always important for you to consult your attorney and see if these are non-probate assets. What are your rights? How much are you receiving? So para hindi ka mawalan ng para sa'yo talaga. Okay? And that you can enforce your rights. Okay? All right, and that's about it. Sabi ko 45 minutes lang tayo, but look, kasi very interesting naman talaga ang topic. So abangan ninyo sa susunod na episode ang ating i-discuss. Of course, very interesting na naman and maybe related to what we talk about. So I will, let you, or not surprised, but abangan yun. Abangan ang susunod na episode ng Usapang Off the Record. Maraming salamat sa lahat ng mga nanood. Thank you all to the audience and listeners. Usapang Off the Record I brought to you by the Roof Chamber Radio Pinoy and Ligot Dizon Law Firm, and of course, a special thanks to the president of Roof Chamber Radio Pinoy, si 𝘗𝘂𝘕𝘏𝑉𝐿𝑎𝑐IN. Maraming salamat. Sana'y makabalik ka na din sa show, okay? Hintay-hintay ka namin. All right, so sa mga nanood, maraming salamat. Magpakabait kayo. Take care. I'll see you all next week sa isa na namang Usapang Off the Record. This is Aileen. Have a great weekend, everyone. Make it worth it. Bye-bye.